This is Tuomas from Korpiklaani, and I'm blowing it up on Capital Chaos TV. Hi, I'm Tuomas, the violin player from Korpiklaani, from Finland, and we are now here in the North American tour and just reached Sacramento today. I started playing already at the age of 6, and I was very drawn to classical music at that time, especially Bach, and then all kinds of gypsy violin things and those kind of things. And so it's a long story, but then in my teenage years I went into more explorative things, like I wanted to start improvising more, and that led to quite funny things. We had an acoustic trio with violin, cello, and a piano, doing Napalm Death kind of cover songs. Well, not really cover songs, but our own hardcore songs in the style of Napalm Death. So, so I was attracted to the energy of metal. But at the same time, I had this idea that could that same energy be achieved without any amplification, and I think it can. It's just mentality more than anything else. How old I was? I was 6 years old when I started playing violin. Yeah, and I really chose myself to start to play violin. So I begged my parents to get me one. My cousin had started playing violin a year before, and I was just so envious. So that's how it started. Have I always been creative? Well, yes, and but there was a time in my early teenage years when I had a condition called elephant growth. I grew much faster than a human body should, and that created a lot of problems, and I couldn't play for almost 2 years. And at that time I started to explore other creative ways of expressing myself, but nothing really replaced music ever. Kulkija album, our latest album, is quite a different album from the previous Korpiklaani albums. It has a much more organic feel to it than any of the previous albums, and we had a different producer for this one, and but it still continues naturally from the Noita album, because in a Noita album we found a very pleasing balance between the folk and the metal elements, and now in Kulkija album we are going even further with that. So if the balance was found in the Noita album, now it's also about the style of play, that me with the fiddle and Sami with the accordion, we can actually even interpret the songs in a more folk way and not just be blasting. So there's a lot more of this natural feel to the music itself. And also Jonne's compositional style has improved. It's much more versatile than it has ever been, and the arrangements were more well thought out than before. Every one of us in this band are very different. So if you'd ask who do we admire or who inspires us, you would get a different answer from each and every one of us. Matson is a huge Kiss fan and Iron Maiden fan, and whereas Jonne and Jarkko are really into the first wave of metal, the Black Sabbath and Motorhead and that kind of stuff. And for myself, Jethro Tull and other progressive rock bands have been most influential, but Jethro Tull the most, because as a violin player it speaks to me to have a flute player who is doing things differently. So that has been a big influence in my life. And then one big influence for for all of us that you can hear is the Finnish traditional folk music, and you can really hear it in the melodies of Korpiklaani, that they are very influenced by a lot of traditional folk songs. The writing process has not changed that much, because we've always been very intuitive in what we do. We don't plan things, we just let them happen, and then afterwards we sort of figure out what it was that we did. That happened with the Manala album, for example. We only at the studio we figured out that, hey, all of these songs have a relationship to underworld and to those myths, one way or the other. And again with the Kulkia album, the same thing. The idea of Kulkia, that means wanderer. Only in the studio when the tracks were already done and laid out, and we were going towards the final mixes, we started to understand that, hey, this album is all about the wanderer and the ways that a tramp sees this world, and all the different aspects of it, all the different aspects of traveling. So we kind of, we do what we do, and then we'll analyze it later. I guess you could say that we are a pioneering band, and at least in Finland we are. There weren't many in this genre. I don't know, maybe in Russia they had folk metal even before us in Finland or anywhere else. I don't really know the history that accurately, but in Finland there were Fintroll and us and a couple of other bands. Amorphis studied Kalevala in the early phases around the same time. So I could say that we were on that first wave of bands that were taking it seriously and doing it seriously. We played one festival in Switzerland together with Flagge Mali, and it was awesome. It was really awesome, and personally I would love to make a tour together with them. And I think Dropkick Murphys, if I'm not, no, it wasn't them. My mistake. But anyway, this Irish influenced metal bands would be really a nice combination for us to tour with them. There are a lot of similarities in the ways we do things. They are really worlds apart, playing a festival or playing a tour. For myself, I enjoy the most to play in big clubs with let's say 1,500 or 2,500 people, because you still have that intimacy, you still have that feeling that you can reach to the back of the crowd. Whereas in a big festivals, when you play for 25,000 people, you don't really feel what's happening, on the other side of the field anymore. And besides, when you play in a big stage, already the physical difference to your band mates can be very wide. So it's a different form of performing altogether. And I can't decide, which one I like the most, because they both have their beautiful sides to it. Like the special, the energy is special on both of them. Well, personally, from the European festivals, Hellfest is my absolute favorite in France, and they have amazing food over there. The catering is always lovely, and the actual festival is really well done. So it really feels that you go to some kind of a parallel universe when you go there. They have all these open fires and a lot of sculptures that have fire inside of them, and it's just beautifully done festival. As a band, we are one of those boring bands that always think that their latest album is the best one, but I think that's how it should be. Why to release an album in the first place if you are not if you aren't happy with it, and in order to be happy with it, you got to be better than you ever were. So for that question, I've always answered that the latest album is our best album, and I totally think like that even more than ever before, and something special happened with this Kulkea album, and for the first time I have a feeling that it's actually difficult to do a better album. Like, the most challenging instrument was the hurdy-gurdy that we used in Manala album to record Rauta, and not maybe because of the hurdy-gurdy as an instrument, but this typical instrument was just made for Jonne, and Jonne hadn't played it hardly at all before, and without sufficient knowledge of that instrument, there was some tuning things and some little things that the actual instrument needed a little fine tuning from the maker's side, and figuring those things out were quite difficult and challenging, but the end result is really nice. Well, with these guys it would be lager, yeah. Clear or colored liquor? Well, I mean absolutely clear, no doubt about that. We have a thing for vodka, it's kind of yeah. Well, our bass player enjoys whiskey and collects different types of whiskey, and so for him maybe the answer would be different, but we'll never have colored liquor here. We are always with the clear ones. Tom Waits is a pretty big artist for me, and his the first album from Tom Waits that I ever bought was on cassette. The Closing Time. I bought it from Rome. The first time I was abroad in my life. So I just went into a record store and bought that cassette, and it has stayed with me till forever since. So that has a lot of nostalgia for myself.